Good afternoon there, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's Nature Echoes. It's on this Sunday, 23rd of April, 2023. So, thank you, those who joining me and probably joining later as well. This is our weekly time of echoing our news, stories, poetry, and art connected to nature folklore and our precious water, the holy wells, the woodlands, hedges, and wildlife. So, hail, hail, whole, and holy good health to you all there. And through this edition, I'm going to be focusing more on the arts. And first, I'm doing two echoes, not three echoes today, as there's some new news as well. I'm going to be added. But I'm going to be echoing Anna Brones, a writer on Substack. I did last week as well. But I've been she's got great features, and I'm going to give the information after the show. But this time she featured an artist called Heather Bird Harris. And this time Anna featured the artist, as I say, Heather Bird Harris. That's it. I'm getting the names right. And she makes art from pigments that she makes from the earth, from the soil, from the dirt, as you might say, over the other side of the Atlantic. And I was also going to have a lovely live interview with artist Lisa Maria from Chile and Kerry. We had a great time trying to get this interview done. She's featured by Manchán Magan daily on Facebook, her illustrations that are amazing. But though we tried the interview, for some reason, after 5 minutes, the whole thing cut out, which was really sad. The signals were showing that we were recording fine. I don't know what happened. I think there was a bit of a Google Drive blip at that time. And it's a shame because when I played back, I have never had such good audio on this service ever. Anyway, we're going to try again next week. But at the same time, I'm so excited about Anne-Marie's work. Lisa Marie, I should say, her work. And so I'm going to give you a sneak preview as our second echo as well. Can't resist an introduction to this. Anyway, I was going to feature the Tyrone Community Forest feature that I postponed last week. I think the two echoes I'm going to be doing just now are going to be enough for the half hour or so. So I'm postponing to another week, maybe 2 weeks, because I'll be focusing a lot on the May Day next week. I have some updates with the Journaling Nature Folklore course. And as usual, the Nature Echoes Live, this show, plus the growing nature folklore videos, the articles, the photo library, and Journaling Nature Folklore course modules, they're all brought to you by the kind support of our lovely subscribers. And some of them will be with us watching, if you're not watching already. And I'm currently inviting you to subscribe to Nature Folklore through the Substack. That's the link there. And I host a free membership. You can subscribe for free. And there's at least 40 nature folklore articles a year that you'll get to see. And also I'm doing daily short story notes. Notes is a new service that Substack have introduced, and I'm great fun doing that. And there's a nice response. And then for the support subscribers, then they automatically get invitation to join the Journaling Nature Folklore course, as their subscription pays for that. And you get 20 course modules per year that you can join in any time, because it's not a linear course. It goes around in cycles. And I'm trying to put up 4 seasonal online live workshops as well for those paying subscribers. It's €5 a month, but you can go for 50% discount by going for €30 a year in our or whatever it is in your currency. And anyway, if you're on the Patreon, you get a 2-for-1 deal. You get the Patreon, what put there, and you also get the Substack, because I transfer you as a member to Substack as well. Anyway, thank you for your subscription support, for joining in on the course. It helps to keep the show alive and running, and catching up with the monthly subscriptions for putting stuff on for you. Anyway, with all that, there's some early birds who are saying hello. So let me say hello back. There's Terry Slack Hardwick here. Afternoon, John, from sunny Chile, rural Maryland, USA there. And over from the UK, I see we have Susan Samuel here. Lovely to be watching today from the garden. I would think a lot of people are in their gardens. It's sunny over here in Ireland. We got some cloud moving in. I think we might get a shower while the show's on. But it's been much better than yesterday. It was really cold yesterday and quite a lot of rain. But today we're back to the spring to summer. And there's Robin Hart Shepherd, who's there. Can hardly wait to see you. She's coming to Ireland very, very soon and visiting here for a couple of days or so in June. So looking forward to that. Wonderful. Got folks here, which is great that you're watching. Thank you very much. Now, the first thing I'm coming up with is, as I say, the idea of using dirt, using the ground, using the soil as pigments to create your pictures. Now, Anna Brawns, she produces a weekly newsletter on Substack, as I was saying. A newsletter is actually called Creative Fuel, and she's got something every week on the Substack. And anyway, Heather Bird Harris, I think I've got a picture of her. There she is. And as I say, that's the photograph she took, and kind of very much in the colors and tones of the approach to her art, which is very nice. And she is there was an interview and where she talked about her work, and that interview had some comments and guidance from a Louisiana ecologist, a wetland ecologist called Ashley Booth. Now, I'm not going to reproduce the interview for you, but I will put links in after the show for you to actually follow the interview, see for yourself. It's quite long. It's fascinating. I love it, but it's too much for this show. And I just want to leave some on the newsletter anyway. But I'm going to do a bit of soapboxing with this, because I often find art on landscapes can be quite an intrusion on nature. And even art inspired by landscapes created in the studio and then claimed to be connected to nature. I think, well, what's that all about? But this time, I think Heather Bird Harris is onto something that's quite potentially wonderful with what she's doing. And as you know, I share nature folklore, and part of what I do with nature folklore is actually encouraging men to the creation of journals. That's why I got the journaling nature folklore course, and to do that with words and especially with art, because art is what really people communicated with before they had symbols and languages and joined things together. So I find this work by Heather Bird Harris is quite connecting and quite close to, I suppose, what I try and share. So I hope you don't think I'm intruding by sharing my opinion of Heather's work that was presented this week by Anna Brawns through her Creative Fuel newsletter that, as I repeat, is on Substack. Now, artist Heather and ecologist Ashley, they collaborated to create art from wetland soil, and they were doing this as a means of creatively documenting the eroding coastline around Louisiana, because that is wetland that is eroding. And what was talked about was one of my concerns, and that is, the actual approach to interpreting nature by artists. This is that nature is not something that's out there. You don't put yourself in the studio. I think I'll go and explore nature. You don't do that. It's not removed from us or separated from us, no matter, like me doing this broadcast, I'm not separated from that. So we, it's just a closed circuit of the earth. So many artists, they're attracted to doodle, sketch, draw, paint, because they feel the words are very inadequate. And this is one of the main points I hope I share clearly through the journaling nature folklore course, because they always start with prompts. And I firmly believe that many ancient cave paintings and art, they're prompts. They're as prompts because there wasn't any worded language that people could share during those ancient times. And, well, not amongst humans anyway, but they had the ability to create a bit of art, which other animals don't do very well. So I tend to think of prompts as being the ideal starting point before we actually flow our words. And I do love worded language, obviously, because I do articles on Substack and course modules. But this is something I feel is very important to hold on to now that we're getting sucked in. I feel like it. We're getting sucked into replacing what we do instinctively by just going off to the AI servers instead. Because really, I know all humans like to make things. We're naturally inspired to make things. We're creative species. But we also like convenience too. I'm not going to put a couple of hours into putting this together. I just put a couple of keywords into the AI, see what comes out. Trouble is, all that does come out is something that's been put into a digital server. It's not the old analog way of us using our inspiration and imagination. And this is what I feel with Heather's work. Let's give an example up of this. That's her working on something there with her pigments. And like with other artists, I've known a few artists that work with natural pigments when I was in Trororan on the Isle of Mull, which is where the community forest is I was talking about. There's a Philip Cronell there, and he made pigments, and he showed me how to do some amazing stuff. Okay. Anyway, mediums components of nature become the medium for a practice. And I think this approach is at the essential intersection of art, science, and education. And the ecologist, Ashley, this is what fascinates her. And she said this. This is the wetland ecologist. She says, scientists today, simply talking numbers and charts and figures, when they do this, it's not going to fix the environmental issues. And our greatest challenge is finding ways to communicate the specific issues, to raise awareness and gather public support to address environmental issues. Now, for hundreds of years, this is me speaking now, for hundreds of years, we've seen this happen through the work of playwrights, poets, songwriters. I immediately think of the late Ewan MacColl. He was born in Glasgow, and he was quite a master of doing this through his life. He started off doing theatre on workers' issues, on environmental issues, before he actually got into folk singing and before he got involved with the clubs, and a great singer, and got married to Peggy Seeger, of course, and they put on their music shows. And then later there was Billy Bragg. Billy Bragg, that's how he started off, with the electric guitar, bang, 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 in the punk era. But he became very good at this too. Now, Heather, she describes a lot of her work as being an expression of unlocked memories. And this is something that she has done that seems to fit in on that very thing. And I think suddenly we're faced with inner visions of collective stories when we focus on memories, the way they come to us. And I want to do an actual workshop just on this very thing. But when we're faced with the inner visions, we think, where's that come from? It's like the collective stories that comes from the consciousness. And when this comes through, it seems like as if we're getting a conduit, a flow, a clairvoyance even, of fragments of vague history and events. And when we pick up these memories, we've got our own physical human memories that are in fragments. And somehow, when we pick this up from the land, when we're in I don't know, we might be on a mountain, we might be in a wood, might be below some caves, might be at a holy well. Suddenly there's all these visions, and we've got these fragments of memory, and somehow our consciousness, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It starts putting it all together. And we start to learn something about the communities that are present, that were present, and also about ourselves and how we may fit into that. I hope that wasn't too complicated explaining that. Anyway, Heather describes her art as being a way for us to engage and connect to the land and water. And that is a lovely photo of her working to get some material that she's going to make into her pigments. And so I think this, what she's doing, helps us to think about our own connection when we go to places, when we allow ourselves to have a kind of smell the roses situation where we stop and pause. Now, one way that Heather is involved in doing this, as I say, she uses the pigments. I'll give you, here's some pigments that she's put together that she uses in her art. And this is the material. She's got the medium she's got that she enables her painted interpretation. And Heather also suggests we should approach history as a creative pursuit and not as an academic one, and that the communication of history is really the craft of storytelling. And when we do storytelling, that's what's going to hold an audience. And with her art, and she suggests, like with all art, if we try to connect it to history and our deepest memories and experiences when we're in places, I say to hold an audience is to tell a story, but I feel the goal isn't actually the telling of the story, but actually when the story comes to you in a vision and you don't know where it comes from, explore that story. It's like a prophecy of your present. Explore that, and then the story kind of forms itself. So when we explore our memory visions, as I say, the story seems to tell itself. And that's what we do. And certainly in a storytelling situation, those of you have been with me, give an instance, I suppose. I used to live by the Gaeilge Caves. People would say, oh, tell me a story about the Gaeilge Caves. And we're in the cottage and I'm going, we go off to the caves. You can't keep me quiet because all this stuff comes and you get the visions. And it's as if you've got the entire history has suddenly approached you, saying, me first, me next. And so you're telling the stories because you're getting these visions and you're trying to share them as much as you can with the people. I think it's lovely to actually try and give yourself a sort of, if you don't do this already, give yourself a sort of apprenticeship to do this. It's an amazing thing to do. Hoda Wells is a great place for doing that. Allow yourself to accept those visions and tell them like it is. You'll probably be bumbling with his story, but you really capture the people and they'll understand it. So I feel our interpretations joins a lot of dots and fragments together. And we personally make sense and see clarity in a lot more than we did before. Anyway, so Heather, she talks of the challenges of art regarding people regard art. A lot of people, we get a lot of this, and some political leaders have said this. I know Margaret Thatcher was a real bad one at this, regarding art as a non-essential part-time. It's just something that the elite do. And sometimes when we see some of these sculptures that wealthy people get paid a fortune for, I tend to wonder that myself. But I think we should regard art as still being an amazing potential communication of human experience. As I say, that's what humans had before they had words. They just had art, which allowed to be prompts that people could look at, they could experience, they could sense, and they got an interpretation, and it told them a lot. There is a land memory project starting. I think I've got a picture of the poster here. And it's happening next month. It's in Atlanta, and it's through the Science Gallery in Atlanta and Embry University. I won't talk more about that, but if you can do the Google and find out about that if you're interested in that. And there you go. Heather Bird Harris, she's at the top there. Another picture of her without effects. So there we go with that one. And yes, I suppose even that project sounds elitist. But they're going to be an attempted collaboration with the university. They're going to bring in historians, environmental scientists. And an interest in this is they will be exploring the potential learning experience from other people to explore people's personal land memories, a bit like going to in Ireland. If you want to look up stories, go to ducas.ie. And you see the project there in the 1930s of the school children picking up local stories, and they got registered. That type of thing, because when they're telling stories, it's from experiences, not stuff read from books. And in a way, this is all about learning what we can from Indigenous history. I don't think universities have touched this. When I was college, when I was university 30 years ago, they wouldn't have touched this approach at all. I used to say, well, this is the way I'm going to do it. But the dean especially and some of the lecturers, they really frowned. Don't you think you're going to put a thesis in that way? I think things have changed, thank goodness. So this land memory project intends to explore roots of land It's land distress, also social distress, because I think the two have come together ever since the Industrial Revolution, and definitely now with the digital revolution. There's concerns now, for instance, for the fast expansion of kind of cloud data services that are popping up everywhere. So they're going to look at that, how that's connected, land distress and social distress, and try to express some of this. And Heather points out that art is for everyone. Art should be the medium to help people understand this, because it's through art is the only way that really we can make sense of stuff, because our art, as I say, is an expression of that vision that we get. So compare that to academics that communicate their expertise through history, the so-called facts, follow the facts. That has very limited audience potential. If I gave you a whole lecture with facts based on, I know I'm not doing the subject with facts, but if there was, say, like the archaeology of Gaeilge Cave, since I've been talking about that, it wouldn't change much. Maybe you're getting bored with me on the storytelling, but I know some of you really connect with this. And Heather believes that if we are to achieve collective change, we need to widen what we do that attracts an audience. And we're not going to do that with blasting facts. But expressing what people can actually feel, and art stirs emotions. Music certainly does, and that's a form of art. And when people read books, when they hear stories, also imagination surges up. You relate it to past experiences, and people relate to that. And I think that's very important. People relate to and remember stories much more than they ever will with facts. So Heather works with her art with pigments from the earth. I think I've got another little picture of that. This is one of her artworks. Obviously, what the heck is that? It's like something from the Tate Gallery, but there you have. And I'm sure there's an interpretation with some people who will see that, who's into art, they'll understand what's going on there. But the earth that she actually chooses, she actually does test it before she uses it as a medium. She does get it tested, see if there's any toxicity in the medium, because she doesn't want to use any soil in her pigments that's actually got any toxic components in it. Very fussy on that as well. So her inspiration for using earth pigments started from contemplating how the land moves and changes, especially against water. Especially Louisiana is a good case. You see water and land ebbing and flowing. Yeah, you get that in the Wash, Lincolnshire, the Fens in the UK. And see how colors react, because when you got land and water coming in and out, colors change, as well as the sunlight and so forth. So there's a great observation there. And Heather rounds up her interview by interpreting what she feels is what is being creative. And she says that being creative is to look at things, feel things from all sorts of different directions. Don't go into it linear. Try different directions and angles, and try to do this as a habit with everything you do. And when you do this as a habit, it's a wonderful process for tackling any situations, any problems, things you've got to work out. Now, one thing she said is that people's ability to think creatively is the only way to get out of any mess that other people have created. I think I'll repeat that. People's ability to think creatively is the only way to get out of any mess that other people have created. Anyway, creativity becomes active when we think about which stories we're going to highlight. And then the visions just pour into our mind's eye. We share that. And Heather also talks about how capitalism is actually a new thing. It's relatively a brief experiment. She calls capitalism an experiment. And in terms of human existence, it hasn't been around very long. So how does capitalism align with how humans have lived for the majority of time on Earth? Capitalism is a weird thing in relation to that. But if we pause to contemplate that, she describes that, contemplate that effect of capitalism and how it's so minor. It's just a sort of a grain of human existence. If we can do that, it's amazing how that can mentally free us up so that we're not scared about doing experience. We can release ourselves of You know, capitalism is a lot of keeping people control and doing as they're told. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the profit made. But if you can free from that experience, then the art comes out. And with more free experience, creative flow increases and the art pours out, as I say. So as for working with earth pigments yourself, Heather Bird Harris, she does hold workshops around the USA. I don't think she's left the USA. I'm going to put the website down so you can have a look what she's doing. I'll post them in the comments after the show. Right, I blabbed on that first echo. Let's see what you have to say. Someone here, Robin, we said, hardly wait to see you. Yeah, Claire's here, Claire Roach, and got some news of Claire Roach coming up very soon. And she's popping up. Oh, she says about the photo. I forgot to mention this. It's still up because when I was doing the interview earlier, that's because Lisa Maria lives in Kerry. I decided to put a Kerry photograph, and this is very relative. It's a shame that I have to put the long picture up, but where I am here, I'm standing at a place called Shrone City. And Shrone City used to be probably the main gathering place for Beltner eventually, for the mating, for the people mating at Beltner. It was a huge place to be. And it lasted, they had a kind of a fair, a market that actually lasted right through from fairly ancient times up until 1986, I think, was when the last year they had it. And when you visit there with the narrow lanes, it seems very hard to understand how did this go on. But I got the stories from the local farmers who told me about the fairs and when they happened. So they're great at telling you the stories of the site and what each. There's some various stones there. There's a Marian figure. There's a couple of old, very small megalithic cairns there. And where that picture is, that wall, it's above the lovely clear holy well there. And in the distance is the Paps of Anu, which is an incredible feature in Kerry, because as you wander around Kerry, you'll see those twin paps. Pretty much at least half of Kerry as you go around. And they both got cairns on the top, so there's quite an alignment there. The well would be below that wall. But what happens, you hear about the twin fires and driving cattle through the twin fires. They did have a place for that in another field, but after that, they let the cattle come in to the well to drink. It's the only time of the year they let the cattle in the well to drink from the well. And that's before they then send them uplands. Because Kerry, they send them upland for the summer. And there was a baiting field where the Gaeilge was and that. There's a lot of features around that. Anyway, I better move on with the second echo. Let's see what, yeah. I see Robin said something else. I met Peggy Seeger in Mexico at the spa where I worked. Rancho Rio Caliente, lovely. Yes, fantastic. She did a show in Sligo a couple of years ago, and that was a wonderful experience there too. Yeah, she is. She's. I won't talk more about that. It was a great experience, and we had a couple of wonderful stories with that. Thrilled to hear about the pigments and so, says Terry Slack Hardwick. Okay, I'll go on to the second echo here, because a couple of days ago, let's get a picture up of. I talked about the lovely Lisa Marie, organic. She's actually an organic farmer in Kerry, outside of Tralee. And she's actually moving to Clare very shortly and working on an organic farm there. Anyway, it was a lovely interview, but it didn't work, as I say. This is her. No, that's another one. There she is. Is a wonderful picture of her there. But sadly, as I say, after 5 minutes of the interview, the recording stopped, and I didn't know it had stopped. It was ticking over like a. I can see now I've been live for 30 minutes and 4 seconds, and that was rolling around. So I don't know what happened. Anyway, it's pity, because I think it was the best ever. But we're trying again next week, probably on Wednesday. But I'm eager to share some of her work now as a preview for you. Now, Lisa Maria's illustration eyes captured a lot of attention and a lot of love from people on the social media, especially Instagram, during the recent days. And I think a lot of the popularity is thanks to the popular author Manchán Magan, who's been posting one of Lisa's illustrations every day on his Facebook profile. So why is he doing that? And Lisa explained, but I'm going to hold off how she explained it until our interview done next week, and I'll get that posted up for you on May Day Eve next Sunday. But in short, Lisa wanted to relearn how to speak the Irish Gaeilge, but she didn't want to do it in an academic school style. And it's funny, it reminds me, I say of Claire Roach, you'll hear that at her concerts, is that she's put music to Yeats' poems, made them into song and music. And she didn't deliberately do that to make an album, to do a performance. It's because at university she was struggling to learn the poems. And she thought, how can I go about this? So she introduced music to the poems, and there we go. A beautiful set of poems made into song. So this is a similar thing I think was probably going through Lisa's mind. In order to learn the Gaeilge, she wanted to do something that wasn't academic. And she'd been very inspired by Manchán Magan's approach to the Irish language. And I know a lot of you viewing here have probably got at least one of his books, especially the 32 Words for Field. Would I be right? So Lisa, she loved drawing wildlife. It's a passion of hers, as well as the gardening. So she began using that medium, drawing wildlife, for relearning the Irish. And with each illustration, she tells a small story about each creature's name. So on next week Nature Echo, you'll hear Lisa explain this. A lovely another picture of Lisa there, because she has dogs. I don't know if she fosters dogs, but there's a lot of photographs on her Facebook and Instagram with her with dogs. So she's certainly, I didn't get to talk about the dogs. Anyway, I'm going to whiz through some of her illustrations as a teaser for you. And I'm going to start here. Is it the hare? I love this one, the hare. I think it's my a favorite symbol of mine. I hope you can read that there. Very symbolic for now, coming up to the Beldner, great for going from the spring to the summer. And then if you look there, I love the description there of the translation being short deer. A hare is a short deer. And also explains how the hare is a shapeshifter in some stories, especially the Ossian story, which I won't tell this time. And then we move on. We've got the stag here, or how I've pronounced it. I've heard the Dave or Darf. I think in Kerry it's Darf. In the Hebrides it's Dorf. And when you talk of Dave Darf or Dorf, that means a strong man, and it also means a corpulent person. So after seeing that, I wondered, could I fit a stag's head on me? Anyway, goat, the Gower here. There's still several of these around County Sligo, Carrick, around Loch Nassau, the Lake of the Eye, Loch Arrow, Kilronan. And when you see them, they tend to mix with sheep. They love the sheep. They like to catch up with the sheep and try and make friends with them. And the sheep absolutely can't stand them. So it's funny to see that they're, you got to be friends. Go away, the sheep. There's quite an exchange that goes on there. Maybe the goats think the sheep is their ancestors or something. Okay, next one then. Let's try this one. The wolf. The wolf, a very prominent figure in the Cormac MacCart story. And it's actually in a lot of folklore mythology. But the Cormac MacCart stories of Keishcoran, the caves of County Sligo, you might be familiar with them. The story of a wolf coming down and stealing Cormac as a little baby from his mother, and his mother was getting water at the well, which is called Cormac's Well. You can only visit it once a year because the landowner only allows people once a year. But took the baby from the mother, took the boy up to the caves, and then the little baby boy, was reared by the wolves for 2 years. And then it said the Cormac came running down the hill naked. That was a story that he had to tell in order to become a high king. And then there's that other thing, a wolf actually being called a MacTire. Meaning, it's various things, but roughly son of the land. It pops up in folklore a lot. There's a lovely storytelling band called McTire, and Stephen Murphy has brought out an album, the lovely poet Stephen Murphy, called McTire. But if you think of the Morrigan, and usually she's featured with crows, but the wolf also sometimes gets featured in Morrigan stories, and also in Maeve stories, and in both cases the wolf is the protector. So I think wolf is a wonderful prompt to remind us to trust our instincts and visions, and hence how the wolf also tends to have an imagery of warriors, but not warriors independently, but as team associations as well. The next one, I love this one as well. Claire will love the story on this one. The whales, the beasts of the sea, and it's lovely to see them. And my favorite story, there's a reference here that the first harp known in Ireland was played on the rib bones of a beached whale skeleton. And I love that because it comes into the story of the wooing of Ethna by Cian. Ethna being the daughter of Bala, the kind of king of the Fomorians. And even when McMahon brought Ethna ashore, she wasn't sure of Cian. But when they walked along the shore, they found, they came across this beached whale, the skeleton, and it had the fine bones. And then Cian got down to the job. He started playing a tune with these fine bones, the most beautiful tune that echoed along with the cliffs there. And that totally enchanted Ethna. And of course, the rest of the story you can imagine, but that leads on to the birth of Lou and all those stories. The first time I was told that story was by a man, and I haven't got a picture of him, Charlie McGee. He lived in Burtonport in Donegal, and he told me that story when we went together on our bikes to Maghera Beach, which is west of Ardra. But I've also heard it associated with the Naryn Beach, which is north of Ardra, but it's the Dolman Visitor Centre's near there. So, of course, they claim they're close to where the first harp and wooing story is by Naryn Beach. So the Visitor Centre claim that story as well. Anyway, it's a beach in Donegal because obviously Ethna came in from Tory Island. So it would have been one of those beaches somewhere. And then we got, let's get another picture. We got the lovely blue tit here, symbolic of love. There's a lot of them about here in late April before Beltner, so enough said on that one. I love this one. Let's get this one up. I think this is very funny. The lapwing, associated with King Philip of Spain, who became the husband of Queen Mary I. That's quite a story too. But in Ireland, Philip was present. He was quite a trader. And you hear of Cromwell clearing the forests of Ireland to help build the Royal Navy, the British Navy. But Philip also organized his fair share down in the west of Ireland here, trading to get wood to Spain and Portugal because they were building up their navy too. But when Philip came into the area, the Irish remember him as always wearing a hat with a big long pheasant's feather. And that's how they've named the lapwing bird, with the tuft being after Philip. So that's the story behind that. We got the Spidiolga robin there. As we know, they come close to us. The fearless is definitely the word, because they come close to us, as you know, when we're gardening, and they'll actually feed from our hand when they get used to us. Very independent birds. Fearless again, because they'll attack other birds who approach their territory. And then we got the grey heron here, also known as the Moyafada, the Long Mary. Moyafada, yeah. Long Mary, and that's due to stories related to the grey heron here as a wise woman. And it doesn't have to be Mary. There's various wise women stories who morph into being a heron, and they do that when people need to be rescued. And I was actually once, now I'm missing something out. Anyway, let's get to the next one. I'm not going to do the daffodil. I'm going to go straight onto the foxglove. I'll let Lisa talk about the daffodil on the recording. I love this one, the foxglove, because I was once commissioned to write a poem for a painting of about the inside of a foxglove. I haven't got the painting on hand just now, but if you don't clear my throat for a couple of minutes, I can share the poem with you just now. Anyway, I flowed into this glove naked, where the pink stillness internally sparks, fairy lights planted by the she who have passed by, undressed from time and committed to place, a resting port after gauntlet and thunder. This is not a retreat, but indulgence in life, unfolding, untouched by wind inside here. The competing dance of grace and envy have been woven into a slumberland of karma. Words of Wordsworth and Tennyson, they echo inside here to welcome surprised, speechless new arrivals as they also become naked of language too. Within here, there is no crying to be heard, no hunger for bread. The sparkles fall as dew onto my lips. I absorb, and all crying and longing is silenced. Yes, silence. Not even a heart can beat here. Yet life is nourished within this stillness that we were taught to penitently mourn as death. Not even a bee would enter here to collect. I no longer remember what outside is as I peacefully nestle within this tearless muir. So that's the poem. And straight from the poem, I talked about the not even a bee going there. There we go. There's the queen bee, the cranbuck. The bumblebee is the bumbog. Of course, the bee is famous for illustrating how Brehon law works. You probably might have heard, if you've heard anything about the Brehon law, it's about the ruling that if you've got beehives, your bees have had to travel into other people's land in order to collect the pollen. So the people that had the flowers that got the pollen to help create the bees, then it came to Brehon Law Council, where you got a mediator, not a judge, and there'd be a kind of mediation of the trade of how much are the landowners with the flowers going to get of the honey, because they are entitled to a portion of it, because that supported the bees. That's a famous one. Anyway, after the bee one, I'll show you the obvious. There we go. There's another pollinating being, and I'll show you that, and the rest will come up with the interview with Lisa there. But the pollinator, the butterfly felicon, which really means transformation, but today, unfortunately, the felicon means stillbirth. Very sad. And to me, that's another human example of where the humans get stuck in the crucifixion and don't move on to the resurrection, which is what the word really meant. But stillbirths, of course, they are. I can't make fun of that because it is painful mourning, but I just wished another word was used. So I like the older phrase there, the Dilon Day, the light of the god or the gods. And I think that actually limits the possible understanding of the short word there, the day part, because it's amazing how old short Gaelic words can have a long meaning and story translated from them, even those two letters of day. And to me, Dilon Day is perhaps better translated as a one with the divine, not necessarily the god or gods or goddesses. Now, in low form, to me, just day describes our deep reverence for the Mother Earth and all that is born from her. And I've heard of the word day being a word that became used in early medieval times. You might have heard of the Gaeilge Day. There's a branch of the Gaeilge Day still that operate in Ireland and also in Scotland. And if you've looked into medieval history stuff in both UK and here, you might well have heard of the Culdies, which is the slang for the Gaeilge Day. And the day part, it really describes the transformation from being born from the Mother Earth and entering into a Christ consciousness. And with that Christ consciousness going into a lifelong quest of achieving unconditional love, just like the Mother Earth that we were all born from. Now, during these modern times, us humans seem to shorten that transformation, that metamorphosis, which is relative. Let's bring it up as a reminder again. You know, you got the metamorphosis that creates the butterfly. So us humans, I think, we shorten that conversion. We just call it, it's going from paganism to Celtic Christianity. And I think when we say that, from paganism to Celtic Christianity, it's like the fax business. I think it totally dissolves the beautiful imagery that seems to closely fit the life of a caterpillar going to a butterfly too. So I look forward to sharing my eventual interview with Lisa Marie next week, and she will tell her own stories of some of these illustrations, some that I haven't even shown you. She's a lovely woman to talk to, and she's one of a lovely network of writers and artists I seem to be connecting with this year, who all have a lovely passion for the folklore and land, but they don't dress up, they don't wear halos or wave their staffs in order to share what they have to share. I'm thinking people like Ali Isaac, Sarah Humble. Let's see, I think I got this is a lovely one of Sarah Humble. Anyway, and of course, Manchán Magan. I'm trying to get, yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. This was just in the paper, in the Westmeath local paper. Lovely picture there of Sarah Humble with her little lovely dog there, the Yorkie, Evie. Anyway, we'll get her on a show at some point as well. And there's others I've forgotten to mention, and there's others I haven't met yet. So it's a lovely network. I think Lisa Marie, she's coming out with a book. She's going to put it together, greatly inspired by Manchán's Tree Dogs and Banshee Fingers for sure. And such a book would be lovely. Those pictures I showed you, wouldn't it be lovely to have the family gather around the children and share those pictures and the stories, just the same as you can do with Manchán's Tree Dogs and Banshee Fingers. Anyway, that I'm going on forever, and let's see what you're saying here. Terry's had to leave, and Brian, the neighbor, the lovely neighbor here, is finding this all very interesting. Thanks for tuning in, Brian. I've got some updates for you. That's what I should get on with here. But sorry, due to the surge of other things that's happening and into the summer, I did intend to do the first Journaling Nature Folklore workshop on the 6th of May, on Tuesday, 6th of May. I'm cancelling that. I hope you're not upset, but I do intend to host the next one, which is the Lunasa one, on Tuesday, 25th of July. And I'm going to have at least 7 course modules out amongst you, the subscribers. At the moment, you've only had 2, so we haven't really got that much to share on that. And also, not many people had registered for 6th of May anyway. So I think let's have a quality session. Excuse me, before I leave the voice. Quality session in July, I think will be the answer. So between now and July, if you feel sort of missed out by not having them built in the one, do email me, john@celticways.com. I'll put that in there after the show. If you've got any questions about the course or anything related to it, just email me there. And also, after this show, all subscribers, you're going to get another article. This is another piece of news. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Yeah, you're going to get it goes out at 6 o'clock our time. It's the first article of the Belton of Frolic series, which is it starts going towards the fact that we got yellow flowers. And part 2 of this, I'm actually going to get off earlier to you next week, because I start talking about the Maybush tradition. And I think it would be kind to get that to you before the following Sunday, because that following Sunday is going to be the May Day Eve anyway. I know that is according to our modern Gregorian calendar, and we go through lots of arguments about that, but a lot of people take notice of that, and I'm going to be talking about that. So I'll get the part 2 out to you earlier, because I'm going to go a lot deeper into the Maybush, and you may like to start putting your own ones together, because the hawthorns in most places are not out. It doesn't come out till mid-May, though Gary Brannigan, who comes to join us here sometime, in his garden, of course, his hawthorn is out. Great mystery. Whereas down in Wexford, I was hearing in Wexford, they haven't even come into leaf. The hawthorn hasn't gone into leaf yet. Anyway, So as I say, the intent is, if you want to get going with your Maybush, that article might inspire you. Now, the next Journal in Nature Folklore module, it's actually going to be Hawthorns, Hawthorn-related prompts. That's going to be with you on the Saturday, 6th of May, that is. And then the one that follows is the oak-related module. That's going to be with you on the Wednesday, the 24th of May. Now, one thing I regret missing, and I didn't hear about that until this afternoon, is there was a Booktown Festival. It was in the lovely town of Granard, County Longford, over this weekend. I didn't hear about it until this afternoon. I expect the Ditch Witch Tara Tyne, who lives nearby, I bet her and Dave went off down to it. Hope they did, and recorded video and interviews and so forth. Anyway, we'll see. It'd be great if they got there. Granard's only about 20, 30 minutes drive away for me, so it's in County Longford, and it's great because County Longford doesn't get recognition for very much. So I think this event in Granard is mighty as well. And author Manchán Magan, he was actually serving a free lunchtime session there. And he only lives about 15 minutes away from Granard, so it was just a pop down the road for him, which was great. Now, what I would love to do is for next year, hustle in a nature folklore event into that festival and include a few writers that we feature on Nature Folklore and Nature Echoes, and gather people together to do a joint event. I don't like doing solo events, so that'll be great. And finally, as I said, I'm going to mention something about Claire. If you happen to be in Dublin next Friday lunchtime, or can specially go to Dublin, Claire is performing. Do I have a picture? There she is. She's performing a lunchtime concert from 1 p.m. at the National Concert Hall in Dublin. Quite easy to get to. And if you can stay on after the show, there's going to be a bit of a crack in the cafe there after the concert. I hope Claire doesn't mind me mentioning that one. But anyway, that's Claire at National Concert Hall. She's been rehearsing a lot for that. To be able to do that. She's got a concert up north, but I'll talk to you about that one next week. So let's see. The priority right now is the National Concert Hall, 1 p.m. And that's Friday, next Friday lunchtime. Right. I think that's all the news I can think of. What comments that you got? We got Sudna from the YouTube. Wonderful episode. Must be off myself. And yeah, I've certainly gone over my time, haven't I? Thank you for being here for this. So the usual conclusion, thank you for watching Nature Echoes. And let's see, if you enjoy what we share, as I say, through the Nature Folklore channels, consider subscribing. There's the address there through Substack. There's a free tier where you get at least 40 articles a year, and also a daily short story. 1 or 2 minute reads that I put up with a photograph, or fully subscribe to the 20 modules, the engagement in the journaling Nature Folklore, and that includes live online seminars and one-on-ones. Anything that you subscribe to there, the best parts are they're free from adverts, no adverts in anything that goes there. And what a lot of people look for, which they don't get through any other social media, is there's no algorithms. There's no algorithm pollution going to be following you around on Substack. That's one of the best bits. So thank you for your support subscription. This goes a long way to keeping the show afloat and help me pay for my monthly subscriptions for the media and the hosting. And so coming up next Wednesday, next Wednesday, we used to do Wednesday. On the following Sunday, the eve of May Day, we got Lisa Marie interview. I'm sure that'll happen. And I think I'll talk about the yellow flowers and the Maybush as well. Let's get into May Eve and even the visits to the Holy Wells. Any other questions before? Any comments before I wind this up and say my farewell? I've enjoyed being with you through this afternoon and evening, sharing Nature Echoes. If you're watching this as a replay, keep posting your comments and questions. I come back and check them and say what I can and reply what I can. If you're on the YouTube, click the bell icon. It's there and it gets you reminded what's coming up on Nature Echoes the following week. So it leaves me to No, I'm not missing anybody with anything. So wishing you a wonderful, safe week, full of lots of wonder, inspirations, and enchantments. That always comes in from the presence when you're present, the woods, water, and any of the mysteries of nature. So until next Sunday, thanks for watching. Play well. Enjoy the sun. It's supposed to be some sun here, but colder for a couple of days. I think that's all I got. So thank you. I'll see you again. See you next Sunday. Bye.